Hello everyone, my name is Daniel. I am the host for QA Tech Talks. I'm from Malaysia, so which means right now it's 9:30 p.m. for me. But that's enough about me. Let me start by introducing our guest speaker, Shika, who has just turned on her video, so all of you can see her. All right, so just to very briefly introduce her, all right. Before we get to that, for all of you here, I'm sure all of you are excited because tonight's topic is the interview preparation, and it's about sharing your real-time interview experience, questions, and answers with the QA community. So this session is going to cover interview guidance, some tips and tricks, and how to prepare for your next interview and dealing with the challenges during COVID. Right now, let's move on to our speaker. So Shikha Gupta is a HR leader with 18 years of experience. Wow. And 18 years of experience within areas of talent acquisition, HR generalist, learning and development, organizational development, employee engagement, and HR business partner functions. So she has been instrumental in developing, leading, and streamlining the HR and recruitment functions with her proven ability to enhance operational effectiveness and meet organizational level goals within the cost, time, and quality parameters. Now, let's have enough of me talking about our guest speaker. Let's instead have our guest speaker introduce herself. Shikha, please take it away.
Thank you, Daniel. Pleasure to be here with QA Tech Talks. And I understand, I think the most important, the most pertinent topic of today's times is how do you land up in a suitable job? What are those interview tricks? How do you write the correct resume? So, with so much of experience that I bring in the talent acquisition field, I thought I should share some insights based on what is not written in the HR books. No, based on what is the experience that that I go through on a day-to-day basis while screening resumes, while helping job seekers, while interviewing candidates. So that is what I would want to talk about today. Sounds good?
Sounds good.
Okay. The first and the foremost thing, I think the pandemic, right, has led to loss of jobs across sectors, across age groups, across communities, and across the world. And it's a pretty much big setback that everybody has gone through, right? And there are different reactions people have given based on how important the job was for him or her. For some people, they are the sole earning hand of the family, so losing a job was that critical. For some people, they're trying to make a career, right? Do something big in life. The job was that important for them. We have seen the unemployment rate in India went up to 11% when we were struck by COVID. But thanks to the multiple initiatives that the government of India was doing in terms of promoting small scale industries, the manufacturing sector, and so on and so forth, that gave birth to a lot of employments. Now, what happens to us is not in our hands at times, right? Destiny, this is like it's not a man-made disaster, but yes, this is like a pandemic, a natural disaster that just happened. Now, there are two ways we can look at it. One is, and that's a large part of even my network and people across the world who have gone into this whole self-pity, depression, saturation, frustration side of things, saying that, oh God, this is the end of the world, right? That's one aspect of it when you lose a job. The second aspect of the other side is, right, how do you move on, right? What do you do in order to fix your situation, in order to make things better for you, in order to get back to the corporate industry, right? So maybe let me answer the first part first. Mental health, or mental well-being is extremely important. Until and unless you're physically and mentally healthy, you will not be able to focus on anything. There's no point in crying over spilt milk. What has happened has happened. It is not because you're incompetent. It is not because you don't know how to do your work, but it's just, it's a fact of a matter, right? The pandemic led to a loss of jobs across different sectors, right? A lot of companies moved to optimizations, rationalization, and all of that stuff. So you can't help it. So rather than getting depressed, saturated, or frustrated, it's time to do things to change your situation. And how do you do that? I think the first and the foremost thing that one should keep in mind is past is past. Let's move on. What lessons have I learned from the past? How can I make the future better? I think that's the most important thing. And as a first step, what advice I have been giving, Daniel, to my network is keep yourself flexible, right? Say, for example, and I'll explain what that means. Say, for example, I'm in a full time job and I happen to lose my job, right? I should be a person who's open to different options: a full time job, a contract, a part time, a consulting role, a freelancing assignment, right? So that way I am open to many more opportunities that are there in the market, right? Rather than being very fixated on the fact that I need a full time job only, and then I will, start the next chapter of my life. I think the trick is to keep yourself flexible. That way, you're open to many more opportunities. You can apply to many more opportunities, right? It gives you more career options. I think flexibility is the key, right? That's one. Second thing, in under flexibility charter, right? What is the kind of role you want to play? Say you were an HR manager and today you're not getting an HR manager role. It is perfectly okay to step down by one level, a certain compromise on the role, on the portfolio, right? At least you start somewhere rather than starting nowhere. So be flexible in terms of the role, the opportunity, even compensation to a certain extent, right? I think that helps. That helps get you to the job market. So that's just the overall aspect of, state of mind. How should be the state of mind? Now, landing up into a job is a result of a fantastic resume, right? The first call that comes from the recruiter is because you have a well done resume. Now, how do you do a good job, or how do you do a fantastic resume? Certain tips. Number one, please keep in mind what should be the length of your resume. I come across resumes which are 4 pages, 5 pages, and some are even 6 pages. Nobody reads after the first 1.5 page, maximum 2 pages. An ideal resume is, I think, a maximum 2 pages. Rest, leave it on yourself, to explain, to talk about it more during the interview section, right? Or whenever your interview is scheduled. I think that's important. And those 2 pages, what should those 2 pages consist? Say you have 10, 15, 20 years of experience, and you're finding it difficult to put everything in those 2 pages. So, what is it that you should cover? Number one, you should cover all your achievements, right? Things which you were able to make an impact in terms of, say, revenue, impact in terms of gross margin, impact in terms of growth of the company, right? Impact in terms of some process change, policy change, right? Please do mention impactful things, right? That add value to the resume, that add weight to the resume. That's important. Second, a brief of your work experience across different organizations is mandatory. What is the role you were playing, right? And what were the key result areas associated with that role? That's important. Third, in your academic section, right? Please do mention, of course, what is your grad, post-grad qualification and stuff like that, which you will do. Along with that, if there were any extracurricular activities where you played a major role, a leadership initiative, or things like that, which gave you an edge in the college. Say you were the president of the students union and stuff like that, right? So mention those extracurricular activities where you were playing leadership roles, or you were a great team player, right? And things like that. That adds value. So experience, achievements, right? Extracurricular activities, I think. And then what are your key skills? I think the first page and the first half of your resume should have your USP, unique selling points. What is it that you're known for? What is your brand value? What do you bring to the table? That's very important. Otherwise, somewhere in between, in that one big page, it will get lost, right? So your key skills, your USP, what is your brand value? What are you known for? I think that should be the highlight of your resume. All this has to come in 2 pages. It should not be, nobody reads the third page, guys. Trust me, you, no HR person, I mean, including me, we don't read the third page. The first 2 pages are good enough to give a quick snapshot of the candidate and his experience, and etc. etc. So that's on the length of the resume. Second thing, please do a thorough spell check. A resume which has spelling mistakes, wrong grammar, wrong punctuation is a put off, is a completely put off. If you cannot do a spell check, I think that's a poor job. Every resume has to be written in proper English with the right spellings, right sentence construction, and so on and so forth. Right? It's very important. So your length of resume, you're done, you've spell checked, you've highlighted your education, employment, extracurricular activities. Also, please work on the formatting, right? How can you crisply present your information in those 2 pages? There are different layouts, there are different formats, right? You can use different colors and combinations, but again, keep in mind, it cannot be a rainbow resume. You cannot use too many colors. And the most subtle colors or the corporate colors are blue, white, black, and gray, right? Those look very professional. If some of you are willing to, you also have these resume writing services which are available. If you cannot do it personally, please approach consultants. There are resume writing services who do a fantastic job at times, right? Maybe as a one-time activity, I think we should approach them. So what makes a world-class resume? Another thing that you should keep in mind, the job that you're applying for. Say you are a person who's known for multiple skills, correct? And you are applying a job for one particular skill. Let me explain. I'll take an example of HR. So I'm an HR specialist and I am applying for a role which focuses on employee engagement. And I have decent experience in that. The topmost portion of your resume should talk about employee engagement, right? That should come first. So what I'm saying is, please make your resume relevant to the job opportunity. Do a matching, right? Your resume has to be relevant to the job description, right? And truth. That brings me to my next point. Do not fake. Don't write fake data, fake experiences, fake statistics, right? When you talk in the interview, you will definitely get caught. Interviewers are smart enough to make out what you have done versus what you have not done, right? So match your resume to the job description, highlight those points which are mentioned in the job description so it catches the recruiters or the company's attention quickly. But do not fake. Please mention all your experiences as real. If you have worked in a company for 3 months, say it. If you worked in a company for 6 months, 9 months, 1 year, 5 years, present data as is. Please keep in mind, most of the organizations have a background check or a background verification process in place. So if you're trying to fake a resume, you will get caught in the background verification. And that can lead to, they can dismiss you from the interview process, or if they have made you an offer and your background verification comes in negative, the offer can get cancelled, right? So please be ethical in whatever data you're projecting, because background verification is a process which is taken up by most of the organizations, right? And they normally do this process across your last 2 or last 3 employments. So that's very important. So let me quickly recap. So what did we say? Number 1, make your resume relevant to the job description. Number 2, keep it, please mind the length of your resume. A resume which is 3, 4, 5, 6 pages doesn't make sense. Maximum 2 pages. Number 3, grammar, punctuation, spellings are very important. Number 4, highlight your key achievements, right? And please present statistics around it in terms of what you have achieved. Fourth, write down all your work experience as real, right? And scholastic achievements as real. Do not fake. I think this is what makes a brilliant resume. And last but not the least, if you want, please approach resume writing services. Right? Those guys do a very good job at times. Yeah, in India, there are a lot of job portals who offer that service. There are private consultants who offer that service, so you can avail that. And then, last but not the least, use sober colors in your profile. Right? Let's not make it like a rainbow resume and stuff like that. Yeah. So, in my mind, I think if we take care of these 6, 7 things, we will definitely, whoever is applying for a job will be able to attract the recruiter with the right profile. And if the profile is matching the job description, you will get that first call to say, hey, can I talk to you? Can we have a quick call and understand your profile better? So I think, and any questions I would like to ask before I move on to the next section with the audience present here.
That's right. So everyone, if you have any questions regarding everything that she has just mentioned, now is your time to either put them in the chat or you can raise your hand, unmute, and you can ask your question verbally. But if you have no questions, we'll give you guys maybe 1 minute. If you guys have no questions, then that is a sign that we can move on to the next section. All right, we have one question by Shiva. Shiva, please unmute and take it away.
Hi, Daniel, and hi, Shiksha. Good evening, first of all. And thanks for taking time and giving your thoughts on the career guidance. That is the first most thing I would like to say. And to raise a question here, like, with respect to the presentation you've done so far, with regarding the resume writing and the points to be mentioned, how it should be presented and everything, right? As you also said that, people who are experienced more, like have a good amount of experience, they can't put everything in the resume. Okay. So
Yes.
What could be your suggestions that, me also having an experience of 6.5 years, right? I did my best to cut down into 3 pages. Okay. I know I should have not done that either, but I'm trying to be honest here that it was 3 pages, which I tried my best to cut down from 4 to 3, but I'm still in process of cutting that 3 to 2. Okay. But how you want to say that, how we can make it like, present our experience so efficiently in that 2 pages. And as you rightly said, we can explain that in the interview, right? But to make your resume so readable at the same time, so presentable with your experience, that matters, right? So how we can do that? Or if you think that, we have extra mile to go, we have 3rd page or 4th page, then how we can address that? Like, do you think we can link up somewhere, or you think can you suggest us any way that, we can redirect to the recruiters that, you can jump into a certain page, certain link, or you can reach out for more information? So what would be your idea on that?
Absolutely. That's a wonderful question. And Shiva, people who have more experience, right? 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, they face that problem even more because they have that much to condense, right, in those 2 pages. So there are 2 ways of making a resume. When all of us start our careers, what we do, the way we make our resumes, we say employment 1, work X, few bullet points, employment 2, bullet points, employment 3, bullet points, employment 4, bullet points. But as we grow in our careers, I think the other way to make your resume is to do this. Put all the employments together, say in a tabular format, right? And whatever is common across those 1, 2, 3, 4 employments that the person has changed, right? Pick up those key areas. Say, for example, my profile, HR, right? There are some 5 things which will, say, for example, stand out. Employee engagement, compensation and benefits, learning and development, and talent acquisition. So then I give 4 different headings in my resume and I write about them, right? So under each of these 4 headings, when I write bullet points, it will link back to all the 4 employments that I have changed in the last 4 years, right? So what will happen, Shiva, is you will avoid repetition. What I did in my first job is what I did in my second. Maybe I did it in my third and my fourth as well. So you're removing the duplicates and you're just taking the key bullet points, putting it under 4 headings, and then putting the employments together. That's one way of doing it. Second, if I don't know, if somebody is a blogger, right, you can always give a link towards the end of your resume saying that, as an annexure, right, refer to this link for more details. You can always blog everything and always provide a link at the bottom of your resume to say you can refer to this. I had a candidate, very interestingly, he had created, I think he had created a Facebook page about all the projects he has done. And there was a Facebook page link at the bottom of the resume, which was a public page. Anybody could view, right? Because he had done so much, and he wanted to call it out. So that's what he did. But I wouldn't recommend a Facebook page. For me, a blog is better, where you would want to highlight, right? But the best way is to talk it out during the interview. Right? You're the best person to explain yourself, or you're the best person to market yourself, or to explain what technologies, what projects have you handled. Does that answer, Shiva?
Yeah, Shiksha. Yeah, it does answer. Thanks for that. And as you rightly said, right, I also had a thought of like, clubbing my experience into a space where it can be tabular form. It doesn't mean we need to be having tabular form, but what I believe, I thought of doing the same kind of implementation as you rightly said, having the experience at one level and narrowing down all the repetitive things, uh,
Correct.
and do that. What actually I thought was bring all the experience at one place, like not as an like table of form or something, but keep it in the experience there, because most of us, like, we have the repetitive task in day to day, because until unless you change your role or change your some from development to testing or testing to marketing, it is entirely different. But till that you are in the same domain, whether it can be development, testing, business analyst, project manager, anything, right? So what I was thinking is to have the experience in one level, have the roles and responsibility in a common section. I believe, so that everything cut off, because end of the day we do everything the same every day. So we can say that
Yeah.
these are the roles and responsibilities which I carried out all my 5 years or 6 years. So
Yeah. So maybe let me define it. Say, for example, software engineer and employment one, senior software engineer, employment two, tech lead, employment three, project manager, employment four, right? So that comes in one place together, whether tabular format, non-tabular format, it's absolutely up to you how you want to. Now, under each of these roles, what are those major headings, right, that you would want to call out, and then describe your experience that way. Yeah.
thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shiva, so much for a wonderful question. And thank you, Shikha, as well, for giving such practical advice that can be implemented right away. So that was a very good answer to the question. If there are no more questions, now is your chance. But if there's no more, then I believe, Shikha, it is time that we can go ahead to the next section of your presentation.
Okay. All right. So now that we have a fantastic resume done, we are all set to enter the job market. Now, even before I tell you what should be the interview preparation strategy, right? What is it that the interviewers look for? Who's an ideal candidate? Even before that, I think applying for jobs itself is a very important step. Just because I am out of the market, I am under this pressure. I will use Hindi here. Maybe Daniel, you will not understand. Log kya kahenge? It's a very famous sentence in India. What will people say? What will the society say, right? Oh, you're jobless, or you don't have anything to do, or you don't have a job, or you're out of the job market. So in that pressure, what will happen is
Shikha, I believe you are frozen right now. Ah,
Can you
you're
hear
back.
me?
Yes, you've come back.
Oops, sorry. I don't know where did you lose me. I said in this whole frustration of, what will my family say, my friends say, my colleagues, my society, my neighborhood say, most of the job seekers apply for many jobs at a time. Naukri.com, Monster.com, Indeed.com, Dice.com, LinkedIn.com. Please don't do that. Number one, you could be tagged as a spammer, right? Because you're applying for 10, 20, 30 jobs just because you're desperate, you're not well, you're having issues with yourself, mental health, depression. Don't do that. You probably could be tagged as a spammer by one of these job sites. Second, your resume going for every second application, right, is not the right thing to do, because a lot of jobs are advertised by similar set of consultants, right? So if I'm a consultant and I have advertised 6 jobs, I see, Shikha has applied against 5 of those, but she's only a good match for one of those, right? So please don't get into that flurry of applying for many, many jobs which are published by the same consultant. You do not bring any market value. You're not seen as a job seeker, you will be seen as a spammer. Look at jobs which are relevant to your experience, to your resume, which you think are the best fit. Where do you see yourself winning? The winning attitude, the winning edge. I know for myself, say, for example, talent acquisition and employee engagement is what I'm best suited for. I enjoy doing it. I love doing it. Like I'm talking to all of you right now. Right? It's a part of my talent acquisition portfolio. So please apply for roles which you enjoy doing. You will give your 100% and which are a right match to your resume. You remember in the first section, we spoke about matching the resume to the job, right? So please do that matchmaking and then apply for jobs. Now that you have applied for the right job, Eureka! That first call has come, right? Let's have you at our office. Let's have the first round of discussion. Now, how do you need to prepare for an interview? Multiple things, and I will talk about the ones that are most of the times ignored, but maybe a little later. Let's start with the most important ones. Brush up your skills, your concepts, right? And your experience. Why am I saying experience? Somebody asks you, oh, you were with so-and-so organization, what were the dates? Please don't look for an answers in the interview. By heart your resume if you don't remember the dates. Say 2004 to 2008, right? You were with employment 1. 2008 to 2010, you were with your employment 2. 10 to 15, employment 3. 15 to 2021, employment 4. Remember those major years. You don't have to remember months and dates, at least the year. Don't look for answers. So brush up on your experience, your own resume. You should know it by heart what you have written. And you remember we said in the previous section, don't fake. So you should know what you have written. You should be able to explain it. So if you want, please brush up your skills, your concept, and your resume. You should know. That's number one. Second, every interviewer looks at body language. What are you trying to convey? That first handshake, whether it's a firm handshake or it's a very loose handshake, that first walk in the interview, are you walking with your shoulders upright? That exhibits confidence? Or are you walking with your shoulders slouched and steps wavy, right? The way you sit down, the way you handshake, the way you carry yourself, right? Nervousness, biting your nails, playing with your fingers, feeling sweaty, feeling thirsty. Please, body language plays a very big role. And it is perfectly all right in an interview to say, I don't know. But if given an opportunity, I can brush up and I can pick it up. I can learn, I can upskill, I can cross skill. There is no need to sweat in the interview. It's absolutely right, all right to say, I don't know, but I can learn. I'm a quick learner. I have that ability and so on and so forth, right? Rather than, trying to cook up stories and sweating it out there and showing nervousness, anxiety, you'll get rejected, guys, please. So it's okay to say, I don't know, but body language plays an important role. Even on video calls. Today, nobody's going to the office. Can you hear me? Daniel? Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I was getting a signal that my internet is weak. So even on video calls, right? You won't believe, guys, I have candidates who've actually shown up for an interview in a night suit. Dress for success. I am not joking, right? That shirt with those clown pictures, teddy bears, right, which look so funny. Dress for success. It's very important to have the right grooming, have the right attire. I'm not saying wear a formal shirt, but yes, please wear a t-shirt, right, which makes sense. Comb your hair properly. Grooming is important. Dressing for success. The way you dress shows your confidence. The way you dress shows your likability or shows your hunger to get the job. Beyond body language, dressing for success is very important. If it is a sales role or a business development role or a customer facing role, the best is, to wear a formal shirt and sit on the interview, right? Because these are client facing roles. It will involve meeting with the client. So it will give a good sense to the interviewer. So always, if you're not doing formals, at least smart casuals. So dressing for success is very important, and it plays a very important role. That's the impression you're carrying. That's the impression you're giving to the interviewer. Okay. So what did we say? We said grooming, we said dress for success, we said brush up on your concepts, skills, and experience. Now, number 4, while talking to the interviewer, never oversell or over exaggerate. You will get caught somewhere, right? No, please don't fake it. You will get caught somewhere, right? If not in the interview, once you join, then, right? But then that's very difficult. Most of the interviewers are very smart. So please present your data, your facts, your experience as is. Talk about it with passion, with truthness, with honesty, right? Please do not oversell just because you're desperate, you want to get the job. I am this, I am that, no, you are what you are, right? The company will hire you for who you are and what you are. Don't oversell, don't exaggerate. Okay. Another thing that comes to my mind, and I think it is important, it is very important to research the company you're going for an interview with. Please, that gives the interviewer, confidence that you are interested in their brand, you are interested in their role, and you would be a long timer. You would stay with them for 2, 3, 4, whatever number of years. Now, how do you research about the company, or what should you research about the company? In my mind, it's a good idea to look at the last 3, 4 years trend. What are the product and services? What has been the journey of the company in the last 3 years, right? And everything is available on their website. Read about the company. What are they into? What has their journey been in the last 3, 4 years? What is their mission, vision? What are they going to do in future, right? That is also available on the website. And what kind of, maybe if you're interested, go through their section where they talk about careers, HR, culture, right? You will get some insights. It's very important to research about the company that you're applying for, right? So in my mind, I think those are the ways to crack an interview. Beyond everything, be genuine. Just be genuine. Be real. If not this job, it's the next job. But be real, be true to who you are, to what you are, and what value you can bring to the table. Right? There is no point in securing a job which today you need it because you need it, right? But tomorrow you may not even enjoy it, right? So a career is a career. It has to be taken seriously, so be genuine, be real. Yeah, I think those are the quick tips from my side. I would love to take any questions, any thoughts. I mean, I'm sure there's a different perspective also.
Thank you so much, Shikha. Yes. If
I can hear you.
Okay. If any of you have any questions, now is your chance to either type it up or raise your hand, and we will allow you to have the floor and ask her verbally. But if no questions, I do have a different perspective, or maybe even a question for Shikha, if I may. All right. So I understand that we should do our research before we get into the interview with that specific company. And I've seen online where the questions have to be, the the questions should not be the kind where the answers can be found online. So if it's questions like where do you, maybe for example, if the company website states where they plan to be in 5 years or 10 years or their vision mission, these are the kind of things that you can find online that you do not ask in the interview itself, correct? So if judging by that logic, does that mean questions that you want to ask in the interview are things that you cannot find online? So such as things like, what is a day like in this job position? Or, so is that a good question? All right.
Absolutely. Yeah, maybe let me cover that. Yes, please do ask questions. How does a day look like in this particular job? What is the growth path associated with this role? What can I see myself doing 2 years down the line, or 3 years down the line, or 4 years down the line? What plans do you have for this particular team or this particular project, right? Where do you see I can probably also multitask, right? Everybody has capability of different skill sets. You can always work with cross functional teams, right? That shows your flexibility, that shows your learnability, and that shows collaboration. Always be ready to take up bigger assignments, something which is outside your job role, right? It's good to ask these questions, Daniel, absolutely, right? Which gives the interviewer a confidence that this person is willing to do more, willing to learn more, willing to work on cross functional, cross team assignments, right? Which means he's a good collaborator, he's a good team player. So every question, guys, that you ask the interviewer, or the way you give your answers to any question that the interviewer has asked, also gives him insights about your personality, about certain traits that are very visible in you. Yes, absolutely. We should ask these questions. And then we, as a candidate, will also get clarity, right, as to what are the plans of this company, or of this manager who's sitting in front of me, or for this project that I'm going to be a part of. It's absolutely all right to ask these questions. Yes.
All right. Thank you, Shikha. If there are no questions from the audience, guys, please, if you have questions, highly encourage to put them in the chat or raise your hand. But if there are no questions, I do have a follow-up question with what you just answered. So let's say I'm going for the interview and I ask the questions that you gave, for example, what does a day look like in the position? How will I see this position change in maybe 2 years down the line, things like that. What if I find myself not liking the answers I hear, and it changes my mind whether I want to take up the position or not? If that were to happen, what is your advice? Oh, yeah.
That's a good one. I mean, if you're not liking the answers, you're already thinking, should I take up this job or should I not take up this job? I think if you ask me from a long-term perspective, Daniel, we should not take up the job. A short-term perspective is, okay, let me get in and see how it is, right? Or what it looks like. But in the long-term perspective, if you feel that you're not going to be satisfied or happy with what you're doing, or it does not align with your career goals, right? All of us have certain career goals in life, right? We have chalked out that this is what I want to do, say between 0 to 3 years of my experience, what between 3 and 6, what between 6 and 10. So all of us have career goals, personal goals, which we have set for us. So if you're not liking the answers the interviewer is giving, you may not want to take up that position. Or depending on the type of the person the interviewer is, there is no harm in asking a cross question and saying that, is there a possibility to do this as well? Is there a possibility that, if you are today into Java technology, is there a possibility that you would want to venture into Microsoft technologies? Or is there a possibility today you have presence in UK? Are you looking at expanding to other geographies in Europe? Is there a possibility I would get an on-site? I mean, there are different ways of, questioning, quizzing the interviewer to really decide if you want to take up that job or not. Right? Yeah.
I think that was really well said. So for everyone here, just to recap, if you are not liking the answers, feel free to cross question and see if it's possible to maybe have those answers changed, because it's not set in stone. Who knows? Maybe you and the employer can come to a mutual agreement. So, Shikha, if let's say you were not liking the answer by the end of the whole quizzing session, would it be safe to say that you can, if you are confident that you don't want to continue, would it be safe to say that you will tell the employer, hey, thank you so much for your time, but after this fruitful discussion, I find that maybe I'm not as interested in the job due to the answers that we've just discussed. Would that be the right thing to do?
Even before we do that, Daniel, I think it will be a good idea to tell the interviewer, hey, look, I know you are hiring big time. I have seen multiple open positions on the website, right? Is there another role where I'm a better fit? Ask him, right? Why not? Is there another role within this group or within some other project or within this technology spectrum, sorry, but in another project where you think my skills could be better utilized? And then this interviewer will either say yes, no, or maybe even put you across to the next group manager for a quick chit chat. Why not? So ask him, why not? Yeah, and yes, it's a good idea to say thank you for your time and blah, blah, blah. I would not be taking this up. That way, number one, you're showing a very professional attitude, correct? Because you're thanking him for your time, for his time, sorry. Second, he's not hanging. He knows that you will not join. He will move on to the next candidate. He moves on with his interview process, right? But in today's times, Daniel, everybody is just picking up offers. Every candidate in India has about 2, 3, 4 offers, right? The HR recruitment folks, we keep waiting for our people to join. They promise, but they don't turn up. They go and join somewhere else. That's the challenge the whole industry is facing. I think it's a very professional thing to do that. To say, you know what, this does not match my career aspirations. Thank you very much, blah, blah, blah. And if you want to go one step ahead, but I have somebody in my network who could be a good fit, and I will share the resume with you. You can even do that, right? If you are not taking up that job, but you know somebody in your network who is suitable for that job, why not refer? I think Shiva wants to ask. There's something in the chat box as well, I guess.
Yes, I see them both. So Himansu, Shiva, thank you so much. Since Himansu entered the chat box first, we will address Himansu's question first. So Shiva, hang tight. After Himansu's question, we'll get back to you, okay? All right, so Himansu has asked, can I mention previous work experience that's not related to IT?
Himanshu, for me to answer that question, will you briefly tell me what is your profile? If you can, just unmute and say it.
Yes, Himansu, feel free to unmute and then do let her know your profile. Yes, Himansu, you've unmuted, but we cannot hear you.
Yeah. Or Himanshu, if you're not comfortable speaking, just put it in the chat window.
Yeah, that's no problem. So if Himansu, if you are not comfortable, just continue typing and we'll address Shiva's question first while you are typing. So that can be one way. Shiva, are you prepared for your question while Himansu is typing?
Yes, Daniel. Thanks for asking that. Yes, I'm ready with my question. But two things. It can be my opinion, but it is a question other way around. To Shikha.
Okay.
Okay. I heard what Daniel said that I'm at the end of the conversation with your interview. You mentioned that is it okay? You raised a question. Is it okay to answer in such a way that I'm happy with the conversation, but I feel that what you have delivered the question, the answer to my questions with respect to the company or the project or something, I'm not happy with it. Okay. Uh, to your that side of it, I think Shiksha had already answered it, that there is two other way of approaching. So, okay. I just want to ask again, is it not, Shiksha, is it not, could be a, um, could be a rude behavior, considering it as, if you say that thing in upfront, that to at the end of the call, after having 30 minutes, 40 minutes of a discussion, though it is that, the applicant or employee is not happy with the end role of the conversation. Is it is it not the way that, as you rightly said, there is two other approaches where you can be more formal than saying very upfront that, I'm not happy with you. So is it not the way to do so?
Okay, brilliant question, Shiva. Again, so let me answer that in two parts. Number one, I think I don't remember which philosopher or which author has said this. How you say is more important than what you say, right? So the tone, the attitude, the language that you pick up to convey this message is very important. It's perfectly all right to voice it out very politely, saying that, this is not matching my aspirations or my career goals. If you have something else, I would like to explore that. Otherwise, thank you very much for your time, right? So in this case, Shiva, the how is more important. How do you convey that message? And if you're comfortable doing it, please do it. If you're not comfortable doing it, that's also okay, because a lot of times we can always go back to our respective whatever work, home, blah, 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 and drop an email to the recruiter saying that, this doesn't match my aspirations. I really would like to thank the interviewer for his time, but do let me know if there's any other opportunity. The only reason I suggested to probably say to the interviewer, because he will also have a view of what's happening across the organization. And that's why I said, why don't we question him to say, do you have something else which is more aligned to what I want or what I'm doing, rather than, me turning down the opportunity. So I think the how is very important here. It has to be far polite, more gratitude. The person has spent 45 minutes understanding you. But if you're not comfortable, you can choose not to do it. You can always drop an email after you go back saying that, yes, this doesn't match my aspiration. But these days, Shiva, people don't even do that. They take the offer, they walk away, right? They promise that they will join after 30 days and they don't even show up. That's how the world has become in pandemic.
Thanks, Shiksha, for answering that question. To the point whichever you said about the concern with regarding the HR facing it, I think it is not only in India; it's across the globe. I believe it's another day for the debate. But it's one way around. We have plus and minuses with both the employers and employee, which as a community we have to fix it. Which I think most of the communities in India now and across the globe are trying to fix, from the mentors and the seniors in the industry. We as an testing community people or any other community people, we are here. We are doing our best to promote culture, okay, and behave more professional side of it. Probably takes time, but down the line we believe it will change. And hopefully other
Yes,
2 years, it takes 2 to 3 years, I believe, down the line, I guess. But if people things change the perspective of it, I think it will change. So let's see.
Yes,
Finger crossed. I hope that will happen very soon.
Yeah, nothing is permanent, right, Shiva? Everything changes. Change is the only constant in life. Everything, yeah, industry change, people change, everything changes. Yeah, so gradually we'll be out of all this. Yeah.
I agree on that note. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shiva, so much for your very good question. And we'll now move on to Himansu. So Himansu did say that he is from the electrical background, and if he does not put work experience, then it comes to a gap year. All right, so that was his background. And his earlier question was, can I mention previous experience that's not related to IT? Okay.
Okay, this is still so Himanshu, I will try and answer it. So if you are an IT person and you're applying for an IT job, right, it's perfectly all right. If you're not an IT, if you're an electrical person from electrical background and you're applying for an electrical opening, again, it's perfectly all right. But if the situation is a little different, say you are from IT background, but in the last 1 year you have done some work which is related to electrical engineering and stuff like that, there is no harm in saying it. There's no absolutely no harm in showing it. It only shows the interviewer how versatile you are, how quickly you are able to learn, how quickly you are able to deliver, and you have not kept yourself idle, but you have contributed in some sector of the workspace, right? If not in IT, but in electrical or electronic engineering. That shows your versatility, right? That shows your ability to learn, to do different things. I think it's perfectly all right. Please mention it. As long as it's true and you have done it, it should be there on your resume. And
Well,
on top of that, it will count in your overall total experience, right? Say your 5 years experience of IT, 1 year of electrical, right? So it's total 6 years of experience. If you delete that 1 year, right, your overall experience will also get shot down to only 5 years. So please mention it.
well
That
said,
makes-
Shikha.
You're welcome, Himanshu.
Thank you, Himanshu, for that question. Very kind. Okay, ma'am. All right, everyone. As we can see the time, it has almost come to the end of the session. So if you have any questions, now is your chance. Is the last chance before we wrap up this session, okay? But I feel so far we've had a very fruitful session. And Himanshu, just to add on a little bit more, just to add on to what she said, showing that you've done electrical has shown your other knowledge expertise outside of IT, and it may be relevant to the employer. You may never know. Maybe the employer may also have a electrical position available that you just are not aware of. And if you're afraid of not having the relevant knowledge, there's always online courses that you can do to upskill yourself, and that's something you can add on to your resume as well. Isn't that right, Shikha?
Absolutely. I mean, every experience is a good experience, Himanshu, irrespective of the field. It shows how versatile you are, how quickly you can learn, your ability to pick up, to deliver, to experiment, to take risks, all of that, right? It's good to try out different things. And like Daniel rightly said, you never know, your employer might have something in that area as well, which could be an added advantage for you. Yes. I think Shiva had a question. He had raised his hand.
That's right. Shiva, we saw you raise your hand, so no need to be shy.
No, thanks, Daniel. I'll always try to be very motivative and try to present my questions. And just to add on to Shikha, with your permission, Shikha, can I add on what you and Daniel has said with respect to
Shiva.
Himanshu? No, the dais is all set for you, and so I just need to take a permission before do so. If it's permitted, then I'll just add on what you both said. That Himanshu, first thing first, please we need to change our prospects of thinking what others say. What Shiksha already mentioned in the first half of the session. Don't think of other people, okay? And what I believe is we need to change our own. It's that the change starts from ourselves first. So you change first. Be confident, and be confident that you've done something good. Okay, that is your degree or your experience. And if you really feel short with you may not be fit for IT, or you feel that you need to learn something, as Daniel said, pick up some course. There are plenty things there on the social media now, okay, which are totally free. Okay, you don't need to pay for that either. Okay, right? And as QA Tech Talks, you can be in touch with us. We as a community, we are doing our best. So you don't need to worry with it. And I'll just tell you one example here. Like the people studying in abroad. Okay, they do bartending jobs. They do part time in KFC, McDonald's, and everything. They don't feel shy. They feel proud that they have done something good. Okay, and they showcase that in their resume in LinkedIn also. You can search for the people who are in LinkedIn mentioning that I was a manager in so and so. I worked bartender, but I shifted to IT. I started doing testing. I've started doing development. Okay, So it is that you should be confident what you're doing. I believe in that. That's all I want to add on. Thanks for allowing me, Shikha, and Daniel for presenting my thought on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Shiva, for making such valid points. Thank you so much.
Exactly. Thank you, Shiva. You brought a very good point. Just to sum it up,
Yeah.
basically honor your experiences that you've done because you did do them and they were a good experience, and it's a good to honor them to your employer. Yes, thank you, Shiva. Yes. All right. It looks like we've come to the end of the session. Shikha, are there any last words before we can conclude the session? Last statement before we go.
Be authentic in whatever you do. That's it.
Very beautiful. Be authentic in whatever you do. All right, fantastic. It looks like we have come to the end of the session. Thank you all so much for being here and enjoy your Sunday night.
Thank you very much. Have a good Sunday and take care.
All right. Thank you, everyone. And thank you again, Shikha. Good night, everyone.